My stepson declared that I am not his biological father and asserted that I have no authority to command him to do anything. You hold no significance in my life. You are merely a shadow, an absence. When the time arrived to discuss college expenses, I suggested he allow his biological father to cover his tuition fees. This is a story I never imagined I would share, yet it weighs heavily on my heart and must be told. I go by Robert, and I find myself at the age of 45. I have established a highly successful elite wine bar in town, crafted entirely by my own hands, and I take immense pride in it. It was at that bar where I first encountered someone, or at least that was my belief back then. Melissa served as the bookkeeper I engaged to assist in overseeing the financial aspects of my business. Her intelligence was striking, her efficiency remarkable, and there was a subtle elegance about her that captivated my attention. She excelled in her role. There was a certain warmth to her presence, a quality that transformed the late nights spent poring over financial reports into something a touch more bearable. Initially, we maintained a professional demeanor. Being new to the team, I was cautious not to overstep my bounds. Yet, as the weeks unfolded, I discovered myself lingering in her office a bit longer, crafting excuses to inquire about her work, simply to remain in her presence. At long last, I took the initiative. One evening, after we had concluded our review of the books, I proposed, "Allow me to take you to dinner." After a brief pause, a smile crept across her face. "Are you inquiring as my superior or as a gentleman?" As an individual. That dinner blossomed into another, and then yet another, and before I realized it, we found ourselves envisioning a future together. All appeared to be flawless. Melissa's attentiveness shone through, while her son Ethan exhibited a politeness and decorum that warmed my heart. In that moment, I sensed I had discovered the family I had longed for all my life. After a year of dating, we tied the knot, and Melissa and Ethan settled into my home. Initially, all was proceeding smoothly. I wholeheartedly embraced the journey of becoming the best stepdad I can be. I accompanied Ethan to sports games, assisted him with school projects, and ensured he had all that he required. I invested in family vacations, indulged him with the latest sneakers he desired, and strived to provide him with the kind of life I longed for at his age. He would occasionally encounter his father, a situation that, to be honest, always left me feeling somewhat uneasy given my knowledge of the past. As far as I was aware, Kevin had a tendency to nearly set their old apartment ablaze on several occasions while under the influence, which ultimately led to him losing custody in the first place. Yet, Melissa had firmly believed in the significance of Ethan preserving that bond, emphasizing that his father had turned his life around and embraced sobriety. "He's still his father," she would assert each time I expressed my worries. "Ethan seeks reassurance that his father continues to hold him in his heart." During that singular occasion when I encountered Kevin at a school event, he struck me as less than sober. There was an intriguing quality to the way he swayed ever so slightly, even in stillness, and the way his eyes seemed to drift, unable to find their mark. Yet, I remained silent. In the end, what right did I have to intervene? I was merely the stepfather, wasn't I? If only I had possessed the wisdom I hold today back then. If only I had understood then that my desire to be the ideal stepfather might have obscured my perception of the reality unfolding around me. Yet, with the benefit of hindsight, clarity emerges, doesn't it? Yet, the true chaos was still on the horizon. Far from it. In the blink of an eye, time slipped away, and suddenly it was the day of Ethan's 18th birthday. With both his birthday and graduation approaching, he found himself pacing the house, consumed by a whirlwind of anxiety. He would often ponder, what if something were to go awry? What if no one shows up? What if this falls short of perfection? One evening, as I noticed him lost in thought, I gently placed my reassuring hand on his shoulder. "Hey, everything's cool," I remarked to him. "Indeed, a brilliant idea has struck me. How about we host your party at the bar? The finest section of the house can be reserved for our gathering." In an instant, his eyes sparkled with excitement. It was clear that my wine bar had transformed into a vibrant hub in the community, and Ethan was eager to showcase it to his friends. "Is that so? Is that so?" He spoke, his hand instinctively moving toward his phone. "Oh my goodness, my Instagram is about to reach new heights of excitement. All the students at school will surely be filled with envy." I threw myself into the preparations with fervor. I longed for everything to be utterly flawless for him. I even took him shopping for a sleek, black designer suit that transformed him into a junior businessman. He appeared the very embodiment of a young professional in that suit. I inclined my head to signal my agreement. What do you estimate the number of guests will be for your invitation list? One evening, as we delved into the particulars, I inquired. He toyed with his phone, a flicker of hesitation crossing his features for just a moment. Approximately 30 individuals. Excellent. Could you please provide me with a guest list? I want to ensure we have ample space and food for all attendees. Oh, I don't quite possess one at the moment, he replied with urgency. Simply prepare for 30. Is that all right? Looking back, I regret not having pressed forward with the list, but I was completely consumed by the preparations. The tables were elegantly arranged, bathed in a golden and warm glow, creating an atmosphere at the Upper West Wine Bar that was simply perfect. The space had been meticulously crafted into the ideal setting for an 18-year-old celebration. Elegant and youthful, featuring a curated selection of non-alcoholic cocktails and appetizers, Ethan appeared striking in his fitted black suit, positioned among a group of friends, sharing laughter and capturing moments on camera. Melissa's family was present, engaging with his classmates, and everything appeared to be unfolding seamlessly until he made his entrance. Even before he uttered a single word, I instantly recognized Kevin. He swayed gently with each step, unsteady, his eyes shimmering like glass. He was inebriated. With a booming voice that commanded the room, he proclaimed his heartfelt birthday wishes for his son, capturing the attention of all the guests present. I found myself seated beside Ethan when his father approached our table, his eyes locking onto me with unmistakable disdain. "Get up," he slurred, his hand waving dismissively through the air. "That is my designated spot. I am his true father, not you." I maintained a steady and composed tone. "The other guests at the adjacent table provide ample seating options. Why not consider joining them?" "No." This time, his voice cut through the air, sharp and almost growling. "Welcome to my domain. Please make your way out of my home. Who do you believe yourself to be?" I turned to Melissa, hoping she would step in, to take action, to somehow ease the tension in the air. Yet she remained seated, her complexion wan and her gaze fixed on her hands, as though they contained the solutions to every dilemma she faced. I inhaled deeply, bracing myself for what lay ahead. This was a night that belonged to Ethan. I refused to allow it to be entirely destroyed when I had the power to stop it. "Allow me to be unequivocal," I stated, my gaze firmly fixed on Kevin's. "You face a choice. Take a seat at the adjacent table with the other guests or allow security to escort you from the premises." His visage twisted in a storm of fury. "Oh, listen to you, Mr. Moneybags, tossing your influence about," he spat, swaying slightly as he leaned on the edge of the table for support. "Do you really believe that everything has a price? Purchase my son, purchase the affection of my family." Other patrons began to cast curious glances. Some of my regulars sat at nearby tables, pretending to be indifferent, yet it was evident they were hanging on every word. My team lingered at the periphery of the room, poised for my signal. "You simply glide into this space with your extravagant bar and your grand residence." Kevin's words flew from his lips, each one sharper than the last, his voice climbing higher with every utterance. "Do you really believe you can take my place simply because you possess wealth? Well, you know what? You can't purchase family with that." In a swift motion, before anyone had the chance to respond, he extended his arm and sent a plate of charcuterie crashing to the floor. The shattering of glass pierced the abrupt, lifeless hush of the bar. Then came another, and yet another, exquisite cheeses and cured meats strewn across the lavish marble floor. An elegant bottle of imported sparkling water toppled, its contents cascading over the gleaming surface of the bar. I captured the attention of my security team with a discreet nod. They glided in with precision and expertise, exactly as their training had prepared them to do. "My dear sir, the moment has come for you to take your leave," the head of security asserted with conviction, gripping Kevin's arm. I observed as they escorted him away, his inebriated objections morphing into slurred, unintelligible cries that echoed through the corridor until the front door closed with a definitive thud. Stillness. Slowly, the soft chatter of the guests began to rise once more. I stood up and put on the most radiant smile of an owner. "I sincerely apologize for this, esteemed guests. Kindly allow the evening to unfold. Complimentary beverages await you." The regulars remained unfazed, accustomed as they were to such occurrences. Moments later, they returned to their discussions. Yet, at our tables, there sat Ethan's friends and family. The murmurs persisted endlessly. They cast furtive glances at Ethan, at Melissa, and then at me. By morning, the tale would have spread like wildfire across social media platforms. Ethan sat with an unyielding posture, methodically shifting the morsels on his plate. The elegant suit that had once bestowed an air of maturity now enveloped him, rendering him diminutive and exposed. The party he had envisioned, one that would grace the pages of Instagram, swiftly morphed into a scene of chaos and despair. After approximately an hour, he let out a low grumble. A dull ache throbs at my temples. May we return home? Before long, the festivities came to a close. Though they offered courteous justifications, I could discern their hushed murmurs as they departed. Poor Ethan. Have you caught a glimpse of his father? Can you fathom the events that unfolded? As soon as we crossed the threshold of the house, Ethan made a beeline for his room. I ascended the stairs after the girls, eventually entering his room to engage in conversation, to express something that lingered in my mind. The following morning, the day after the ill-fated birthday celebration, Ethan descended to breakfast, shadows lingering beneath his eyes. He settled into his chair, his gaze cast downward into his lap. "How are you doing, my friend?" I inquired gently. "Very well," he muttered to his bowl of cereal. And so it was concluded, just a single word. The ensuing days felt as though I were residing in a spectral abode. Ethan, once vibrant and loquacious, transformed into someone almost unrecognizable. Whenever I stepped into a room where he was engaged in conversation with Melissa, he would instantly go silent, as if a mute button had been pressed. As the evening settled and Ethan drifted off to sleep, I seized the moment to broach the subject with Melissa. "Do you not believe it is time for us to take action? Perhaps encourage him to speak with someone?" With a flick of her wrist, she brushed aside the notion. "He is doing well. He is merely navigating through the events that unfolded. Allow him some distance." Yet, it was far from fine. This was far from acceptable. In spite of the underlying tension that lingered within our home, we gathered together to witness Ethan's graduation ceremony. Melissa and I found ourselves in the audience, clapping fervently until my hands ached when his name was announced. He appeared splendid in his cap and gown, and for a fleeting moment, as he cast a glance our way and smiled, it felt as though perhaps, just perhaps, things were finally on the mend. Naturally, we hosted a gathering in the house later on. I understood that I had to include all of his favorites: truffle fries, steak sliders, those tiny crab cakes he would often sneak from the kitchen at the bar, and even the extravagant three-tiered chocolate cake that surely required at least a week to perfect. His classmates gathered, and for a time, the house resonated with laughter and animated discussions about college aspirations and summer adventures. For a fleeting few hours, a sense of normalcy washed over everything once more. Ethan wore a smile, engaged in conversation, exuding the essence of his former self. I began to unwind, contemplating the possibility that we had crossed a threshold. At that moment, his phone began to ring. Ethan stepped into the hall to respond, and when he returned moments later, a subtle change had settled upon his features, a quiet resolve that spoke volumes. For the first time in days, he approached me directly, a hint of willingness in his demeanor. "My father is coming over," he mentioned. "He wishes to extend his congratulations to me on my graduation." My stomach plummeted. "Most certainly not," I replied without a moment's pause, the vivid recollections of his birthday calamity still lingering in my mind. "Ethan, reflect on the events that unfolded during your birthday celebration. He arrived inebriated, created a disturbance, and wreaked havoc on the surroundings. Was that your doing?" Ethan interrupted me, his voice escalating in intensity. "If only you had shifted your position and allowed him to take a seat, none of this would have transpired. He is my true father. It would have been wise to simply step aside." I remained rooted to the spot, a sensation akin to a heavy blow to the abdomen washing over me. After days of silence, this was the culmination of his thoughts? Was it truly I who bore the blame? I turned to Melissa with a sense of urgency, yearning for her to finally speak up, to rise to the occasion and be the mother that Ethan so desperately needed. "Melissa," I implored, "convey to him the inappropriateness of his father's conduct during the birthday celebration." Yet she remained seated, gazing at her hands as though they contained the mysteries of existence. The identical hush, the same timidity I had observed at the wine bar that evening. A sudden fracture occurred within me. 5 years of embodying the ideal stepfather role. 5 years of walking delicately on fragile ground. 5 years spent crafting justifications for the actions of others. 5 years of enduring frustration, and it all cascaded forth. Hear me out, Ethan. I spoke with clarity, yet maintained a resolute tone. That was my establishment for wine enthusiasts. I orchestrated that entire gathering just for you. I have procured the exquisite designer suit you desired. I poured my heart and soul into ensuring that night was truly unforgettable. What about your father? He stumbled in, intoxicated, casting shame upon you for all to see. And now he leaves behind a trail of property damage. He didn't even bother to get you a present, Ethan. His actions unleashed a whirlwind of chaos and humiliation. In a heartbeat, Ethan's expression shifted from anger to sheer fury. Ethan's expression shifted from anger to sheer fury in the blink of an eye. "Oh my God, not this again," he exclaimed, raising his hands in exasperation. "For you, it seems to revolve solely around the pursuit of wealth, doesn't it? I have made a payment for this. I assumed you believed that with your wealth, you could wield power over all things." He turned sharply to confront his classmates, who lingered uncomfortably in the living room, clearly yearning to be anywhere but there. He chuckled bitterly. "My real dad will be here soon. It will be refreshing to finally have someone genuine here instead of this." He motioned toward me with a disdainful air, as though I were nothing more than the dirt beneath his shoe. "Your father will not be entering this house." I attempted to express myself, carefully adjusting my tone to counter the swell of anger and pain within me. "Not after the events that unfolded at the bar." In that moment, Ethan completely unraveled. His cheeks burned with a deep crimson hue as he erupted in a furious tirade before the assembled guests. "You're not my father," he cried out. "You hold no significance in my life. You are insignificant. Who do you believe you are to dictate my actions? Stay out of my affairs. You're merely a man my mother chose to marry for his wealth." Silence enveloped the room, thick and palpable. His friends shifted restlessly, some glancing at their phones while others seemed entranced by the patterns on the ceiling. Ethan spun around to face them, his voice laced with malice. "It's time for us to leave this place. I have no desire to commemorate anything in his home, regardless." He stressed the word his, as if it were something unclean. His friends swiftly exited, avoiding my gaze entirely. The front door banged shut with such force that the windows trembled in response. I found myself standing in solitude within my apartment, encircled by neglected meals and disarrayed dishes, as if struck by an unseen force. This was surely the moment. It must have been sufficient that, at long last, Melissa would finally speak up. She would need to stand up for me after this. Would she not? Melissa took a moment to clear her throat. Her words fell from her lips like ice, devoid of warmth or connection. "You had no right to flaunt the house and money in his face like that," she stated matter-of-factly. "There was no need to reiterate that this was your domain, that your financial contributions underpinned every aspect of it. That was beneath consideration." My gaze fixed upon her, as if I were witnessing her for the very first time. "I can't believe this is happening right now. Where were you when your former partner was flinging plates throughout my wine bar? Where were you moments ago when your son rose before his entire graduating class and began hurling insults at me?" Melissa merely shook her head, as though I were the one losing my mind. "You're the one who's supposed to be the adult," she retorted sharply. "One ought to be aware that engaging in a dispute with a teenager is often a futile endeavor." A bitter laugh escaped my lips. "And you ought to be wiser than to hide away, avoiding the truth like a timid soul," I retorted. "Yet, that is precisely your approach, isn't it? You remain there in silence as your ex-husband and son cast me aside, treating me with disdain. Well, would you believe it? I refuse to be the target of everyone's frustrations any longer." Melissa's expression darkened, and silence enveloped her as she turned away. She ascended the stairs, and moments later, the sound of the guest room door slamming echoed through the house. The following morning, the breakfast carried an air of mourning. Melissa sat opposite me, pushing scrambled eggs aimlessly around her plate, all the while meticulously evading my gaze. As I prepared to stand and depart from the table, Ethan stumbled into the kitchen, still clad in the remnants of last night's graduation celebration ensemble. I detected the scent of alcohol wafting from him as I moved from his door to the table. I cast a sidelong glance at Melissa, poised in anticipation for something to unfold. Any mention of her teenage son returning home at 9 in the morning, reeking of alcohol. Yet, as was frequently the situation, she remained silent, merely gazing at her plate. "Where have you wandered throughout the night?" I inquired without bias. Ethan faced me, his bloodshot eyes brimming with disdain. "It is of no concern to you," he scoffed. "You are not my father. You are but a shadow, an echo in the vastness of existence. Merely avoid occupying space within these walls." He then pivoted and made his way, unsteadily, up the stairs to his bed. Melissa remained seated, enveloped in silence once more. At this point, I began to believe that silence was a remarkable gift she held. The ensuing week felt akin to residing in a dwelling haunted by a malevolent spirit, wreaking havoc at every turn. Ethan refused to engage with me directly in any way. Instead, he would speak of me as though I were invisible. "Father," he would say to Melissa, pointing at me as if I were merely a piece of furniture, "would you kindly request your husband to hand over the salt?" He would enter a room and declare to his mother, "This guy is in my way," then simply stand there, expecting me to make the first move. I remained silent, continued to observe. For 5 long years, I toiled in pursuit of the ideal stepfather role. At that moment, I found myself free. Allow them to reveal their true selves. And indeed, I found myself in for quite the spectacle. On Sunday, Melissa and I found ourselves at yet another quiet dinner when Ethan suddenly stormed into the dining room, brandishing an envelope as if he had just struck gold in a lottery. "Father, I made it in," he exclaimed, nearly bursting with excitement. "I received my acceptance from NYU. I have been accepted into my dream school." He dashed toward Melissa, enveloping her in a warm embrace. They wore broad smiles that stretched from one ear to the other. Then Ethan turned to her, a smirk etched on his face that I will never forget, and said, "Tell your husband he needs to pay for my tuition." Something within me simply broke. I smiled, though it was not a warm, joyful smile. A biting, piercing sensation. "I will not be financing your college education." I stated it unequivocally. "Your message has been unmistakably conveyed. I am not your father. I am but a shadow in the vast expanse of existence. Do you recall? Well, would you believe it? This wallet of an unknown individual remains firmly shut. Have you considered reaching out to your biological father for assistance with your college expenses?" Ethan's face flushed an alarming shade of crimson. "You spiteful entity of..." He began to tremble. His eyes glistened with unshed tears, yet I remained untouched by the moment. "This is a deliberate act of retribution against me. Your essence is simply malevolent." I remained rooted in place, an unexpected tranquility washing over me as he unleashed a torrent of insults. It felt as though one were observing a tempest from behind glass. The chaos was visible, yet it no longer had the power to reach me. "Mother." Ethan spun around to face Melissa. "Ensure he faces the consequences. He must settle the debt." Melissa cleared her throat, slipping into that condescending tone I had come to despise. "Let's go, darling. Stop joking around," she said to me. "It is clear that the responsibility of financing Ethan's education rests upon you." I slid my chair away and rose to my feet. I have expressed my thoughts with utmost clarity. I refuse to invest tens of thousands of dollars in tuition for someone who dedicated weeks to making me feel insignificant. A person who regards me as though I am invisible within the confines of my own sanctuary. With a deliberate motion, I pivoted and exited the dining room. Ethan's voice echoes in a frantic scream as he chases me up the stairs. The sound of yet another spectacular tantrum echoed through the air, unmistakably his. Shattering plates, the screech of chairs, dramatic wails echoing through the air. As I reflected on the situation, a somber realization struck me. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I lingered in my bedroom, attuned to the gradual fading of the tumult below. Yet, I was acutely aware that it was far from finished. Melissa would awaken before long, prepared to embrace her role in this familial narrative. As anticipated, roughly half an hour later, my bedroom door swung open with a forceful crash. Melissa stormed in, her face flushed with fury. "I'm fed up with it," she hissed at me. "Tired of your antics and the charade you put on. It is time for you to mature and take responsibility for funding Ethan's education." I regarded her with a serene gaze from my perch on the bed. "Indeed, you and your former partner can come to an arrangement regarding the payment for NYU. I have no doubt that the two of you will find a way to come to an agreement." Melissa's jaw clenched with determination. She began to pace the room, her movements reminiscent of a trapped creature yearning for freedom. "Your actions are undeniably self-centered. He is merely a youth. For heaven's sake, you are the one who should be acting like the grown-up in this situation. It is essential to rise above the situation." I observed her, recalling the countless occasions she had employed that very same argument. "Rise above it, Robert. Release it, Robert. He's merely a child, Robert," perpetually crafting justifications, perpetually grinning, acquiescing with a nod, and parting with my money while they regarded me with disdain. I inhaled deeply, savoring the moment, and gradually released the breath, feeling a sense of calm wash over me. A young person who possesses the awareness of their choices, yet still navigates the complexities of youth. I spoke softly. A young man who has been quite explicit in expressing his feelings towards me. What compels me to invest in his future when he has consistently displayed nothing but disdain towards me? Melissa ceased her restless pacing and gradually pivoted to face me. Her demeanor was frigid. "Very well, allow me to clarify this for you. It's simple. Either you invest in Ethan's education, or I will have no choice but to pursue a divorce." It was evident that she anticipated my surrender, to unravel, weep, or plead for her to stay, for immediate payment. Isn't that what a truly noble person would choose to do? I merely shrugged. "Very well, proceed with the divorce." The look on her face was nearly absurd. Her lips parted and shut several times, yet no words emerged. It seemed she was unprepared for me to challenge her deception. "I will call my lawyer first thing in the morning," I declared, my tone resolute. "In the meantime, you and Ethan can begin the search for a new home." Melissa remained silent, her gaze fixed on me, as if this moment were a rare occurrence. At last, without uttering a single word, she pivoted and exited through the door, gently shutting it behind her. The following morning, I descended the stairs to discover Ethan already seated at the dining table, poised for my arrival as if orchestrating a surprise encounter. The tableau was impeccably arranged. Ethan, his eyes rimmed in red, and Melissa, donning a meticulously crafted expression of concerned authority. "Honey," Melissa said, her smile dripping with a charm I had somehow overlooked until now. "We've all had a moment to collect ourselves and reflect on everything." Ethan nodded vigorously, reminiscent of a finely crafted marionette. "We all simply overreacted yesterday," he remarked, his voice laced with sweetness. I lingered in the doorway, a peculiar sense of clarity enveloping me. It felt as though I was encountering them anew, truly perceiving them for the first time. Melissa pressed on, her voice adopting that familiar, measured tone she reserved for moments when she desired something. "We are bound by family ties. Though we may clash, reconciliation is always within reach. Given that you were the one to elevate the circumstances surrounding this college matter, it would truly mean a great deal if you could initiate the first step toward mending our relationship." Ethan leaped in precisely at the appointed moment. Indeed, contributing to tuition would demonstrate a genuine desire to express remorse and rectify the situation. A chuckle nearly escaped me. Did they truly believe they could sway me so effortlessly? Was it really as simple as feigned regret and scripted sentiments about family? "Indeed," I remarked, retrieving my phone from my pocket. "I recently concluded a conversation with my lawyer just 5 minutes prior. The divorce papers are expected to be ready by this afternoon." In an instant, their expressions transformed. Ethan's feigned grin disappeared, replaced by a look of astonishment on his face. Melissa's face flushed with that unmistakable hue of fury. I glanced over at Ethan. "Congratulations," I remarked with a certain flatness. "No longer will you have to contend with your not dad intruding upon your life. Isn't that precisely what you desired?" Ethan erupted in tears, genuine and raw, unlike the carefully orchestrated ones from earlier. Yet, I had reached my limit with the sway of youthful sobs. Melissa leaped from her chair with such force that it nearly toppled over. In silence, she ascended the stairs with a fierce determination. In the ensuing moments, the sound of her yanking drawers open and the forceful slamming of closet doors echoed through the room. They gathered their belongings in a hushed stillness. Let us put an end to harmful rhetoric. Enough with the hollow apologies. The unmistakable noise of suitcases being packed and doors being shut with a decisive thud. I believed the end had finally come. I acknowledged my mistake. That very night, The messages began to arrive, initially from Melissa. We have all uttered words we wish we could take back. Let us engage in a mature conversation regarding this matter. Then came Ethan. I sincerely apologize if I caused you any pain. However, your perspective on college seems rather unjust. In my silence, their cruelty only intensified. Your actions are creating barriers and fracturing this family. I trust you find pleasure in your solitude alongside your wealth. Regret will find you in the quiet moments of your later years, when solitude wraps around you like a heavy cloak, leaving you with the echoes of what might have been. I remained silent. The dissolution of our marriage was swift, a result of my foresight in securing a prenup. Melissa, of course, attempted to resist, but my lawyers swiftly handled the situation. She received nothing. Not a single cent from the profits of my wine bar. Not a single cent of my savings. Occasionally, whispers of their existence reach me through the channels of our shared acquaintances. They reside in a modest apartment on the other side of town. Ethan's dreams of attending NYU slipped through his fingers, leaving him to navigate the bustling corridors of a mall instead. Melissa finds herself grappling with the challenge of reigniting her accounting career, yet her efforts seem to falter. Since that time, I have transformed the house, discarding all the furniture that brought back memories of them. The space seems to expand in these moments, somehow more buoyant. Perhaps it's merely my perspective. At last, liberated from the burden of seeking affection from those who were merely intent on commerce,